What's up, everyone? This is InCamp Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Hepler. I'm super excited to bring you this show today. The guest just texted me last night that he killed a bear with his bow in Michigan. So the intro I'm recording right now this is pretty early because this episode's coming out October 7th and we are still in September. It is September the 20th, the PA early season opener for a couple of units here. I'm excited. I'm about to hit the woods myself. Our guest is a self-proclaimed world's worst bow hunter. I don't think that's very accurate anymore, buddy. Either way, he does try to be the world's most relatable bow hunter, and we get to talk a lot about that on this podcast, about his approach and his style to out-of-state hunting, whitetails, elk, bears, whatever you can hunt with your bow. This guy wants to do it. I hope you enjoy the show. This is InCamp Podcast. What's new, man? I haven't seen you in like 2 years now.
Yeah, I know. Just same old, same old. I was trying to take it easy this year, and I realized how much I do not like, or I have poorly planned hunting in September. So
As far as like out of state goes and stuff, or
no, just like the starting. Like, so October 1st is when we start. So like family and like routine and everything coming up into October, like I got it dialed. Like, so this weekend we have a family reunion, but it's also the youth hunt. So we're going up camping, coming home tomorrow night to wake up and go hunt with my daughter, and then go back up to the family reunion, come home Sunday, probably hunt Sunday night if we don't shoot something Saturday morning. I have a day off to like get my stuff together, and then going up to the UP bear hunting. And like, that's just been a debacle because our cabin is 7 hours away. And like, with all the stuff I have at the end of summer, like I haven't been able to get up there. So my dad's been going up there. My father-in-law's been up there, and
setting baits and stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So like, it's easy to go like, oh, I'm going to go elk hunting because I just pack my stuff and go. And then the bear thing, like the bait is just, if they're not there, they're not there. Like I can't just go find a bear. So I hate it.
Yeah. Well, I actually just realized you had Dan Info on your podcast too. I just had him on like not too long. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And he, like PA is, as far as Pennsylvania goes, it's like go sit in a tree where you think there's bears, and that's about as good as it gets because we can't bait here. Okay. It's hard to kill a bear without a bait.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I talked to long ago, and this is just like in passing, like talking with Jason Red, and he was talking about like, well, in Adrian Wilson too. He went out there, and I think it was in North Carolina, but it might have been in PA. But they just went to like some super remote, like off-grid camp. And then it was like all about finding like an acorn ridge where they think there's bears. Yeah.
Sure. Any type of food source. But so on the other end of the line, you don't get to hear from him too much. And I'm glad he's on because I enjoy talking to him. This is Adam Miller. Dude, the first time I met you, we were at the Great American Outdoor Show at the Latitude booth. And I think we met each other for like 5 minutes. And we spent like 2 hours just chopping it up, telling hunting stories and kind of going back and forth. Those events are fun, man. I enjoy those kinds of things just for that reason,
Oh, absolutely. And that's like, I think the best, kind of like the best way to find like fast friends. Like you in that like little bit of time, like whether you're going to be like on the same plane as this guy. And especially at the shows, because there's guys who have like this big ego or whatever, and they're looking around to talk to somebody cooler or like whatever.
Yeah.
And then when you find like real people and you're on the same like wavelength, it's very easy to like find your people. I feel.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And you definitely you're right. You can weed them out pretty quick there. Whenever I ran a booth, like I wanted to hear everybody's story. Like everybody wants to, show you their pictures and they're excited or whatever. But you definitely, I know exactly what you're talking about for sure. So Adam, can you I actually listened to the one podcast you did for ARO today. I was listening to parts of it, so I got to hear a little bit about your background. But could you share with my listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, like I grew up in a hunting family. Like my family has a 240 acre. We at the time, like when I was little, we only had 40 acres. We got 40 acres and a farmhouse
Mm-hmm.
for a $50 bad check in the Depression.
Oh, wow.
And some old dude from South Carolina had the other 200 around us. And
Okay.
so, as long as I can remember, we were at that time the legal overseers of it. But, anyways, kind of cart before the horse. But so my grandpa grew up in the UP, hunted, had that property. And that was their like stomping grounds, I guess. And then he went on to, elk hunt and uh, went to Africa a few times. He went to uh, hunted caribou, hunted bear, always
Mm-hmm.
like with outfitters. I mean, I think some of the earlier elk hunts and Western hunts, they just went on their own and like
Yeah.
did a camp and stuff. Um, but so my dad, rifle hunting was always a thing. He didn't really bow hunt that much. He did. I mean, he had like, I think he still has it, like the oldest, like one of the oldest bows, like um, compound bows, a herder's bow
Okay.
from like the early 60s. And that's what he hunted with, even like when I could remember, like in the 90s. So he was
Okay.
hunting with that, like metal strings, the whole works.
Yeah.
Um, and so we grew up kind of that way. I grew up, I got a bow in my Easter basket when I was 5 years old. Um, we got BB guns when I was 8, and we got shotguns when I was 10. And, but it was more rifle hunting. Like, and then, but when I was 12 years old, we started to be able to bow hunt, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just terrible at it. And by like, I don't know, proxy, like my dad was more of a rifle hunter, and we had land to go to. So you just went up there, you shot a deer. It was never big bucks. It was never anything. It was just hunting. It was camp. It was like the whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when I met my wife, her dad is like Grizzly Adams. Like you walk in to like his room of death, Ace Ventura. What a lovely room of death you have. And so again, like the fast friends thing, he was like, "You're here to meet my daughter," and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, you hunt? You bow hunt or gun hunt?" He's like, "Mostly bow, but some of these with a gun." He says, "Do you hunt?" I said, "Yeah, we got 240 acres in the UP." He said, "Welcome to the family." And then, you know, and he was a big public land bow hunter, and his whole family was. He worked at the sport shop in town. His brother-in-law, um, his family owned it, but his other brother-in-law worked at the other sport shop in town. Um, and so that was just hunting all the time. And it's funny because when I met him, he was probably my age now, and I went into his garage and I was like, "Oh my god, it's like Cabela's. They have everything." And like if you were to look around this room or my garage, and you didn't hunt, you'd be like, "Oh my god, this guy has everything." So it's just kind of
Yeah.
like come full circle. And so um, then that's when I killed my first deer with a bow. Kind of really got into bow hunting, after that. The kind of the rest is history. Still the world's worst bow hunter, but
I
it
don't know. I don't know if you can say that, man. You kill some things here and there. I see them back on your wall back there.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
everybody
w-
gets lucky.
what does it take to make the world's worst bow hunter? I'm not really sure.
Well, it's a very, very low bar. It's a very low barrier of entry. So, and like when we started the podcast, like
Yeah.
I, I've learned so much in the amount of time just by, you know, very self-servingly being able to ask the questions to all of these guys that I like respect and admire
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. But really trying to like figure out like what they do, how they do it, and kind of employ that sort of stuff. But the world's worst bow hunter is like the greatest shtick ever, because when you say, "Oh, I got a podcast," and especially like when we started, like the reason we started the podcast is nobody was talking about not killing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They were only talking about like I'm the greatest or like whatever. And I'm not saying that like because working class was out, they were definitely killing stuff, and they have a different vibe than like some of the arrogant like look at me stuff.
Yeah.
But at the time, for us, that wasn't any public land, that wasn't anything. They were talking about things that I couldn't really relate to.
Uh-huh.
So it was like there's nobody out there telling the story like we have stories. So let's just try this thing.
Yeah, that's kind of cool approach because it is kind of like I think it's becoming less of a piss and match than it used to be. I think there's more new people in the game, so they're looking for more content like yours rather than like, you know, Monster Bucks or whatever.
Mhm.
Although Monster Bucks is pretty fantastic when you're 12 years old. But so being the world's roast bow hunter, this is this is a question I kind of saved for you. I asked this question to somebody else, and it was kind of like we talked about it. I asked Chad Sylvester this question, and we kind of talked about it for a minute. But I thought you would be a really good person to ask this question to. So everybody in the United States, everybody loves to bow hunt deer. If you're a bow hunter, you'll say you're a bow hunter, and that automatically means that you hunt deer. But what do you think that the true definition of a bow hunter is? Is it, or does just hunting deer make you a bow hunter, or do you need to hunt everything with a bow to be a bow hunter, or what do you think it is?
I think that it's like your preferred method of take or like your passion. Like, and I think that in and of itself is what makes you a bow hunter. The
Uh-huh.
like the passion for it. Because like for myself, and I was not anything special by any stretch of the imagination, but like once I got home from boot camp in the Marines and you're shooting iron sights out to 550 meters,
Yeah.
like it it doesn't mean shit to shoot something with a rifle.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so every time that you bow hunt, everything can go 100% right, and you can still not get that animal.
Yeah.
Like he walks under a branch. He did everything that he was supposed to do, and he doesn't even know that he was like this close to dying. And even the ones
Uh-huh.
that like you let walk past you, they have no idea. And I think that that's what you're chasing as a bow hunter is that people call it like intimacy, but just being like that up close and personal and having to complete all of those steps to make it happen
Uh-huh.
and chasing that as opposed to what's on the wall or um, even like the meat or like whatever, but just that experience, like above all else. I think that
Yeah.
that's what makes you a bow hunter, not that you go only with a bow or you only kill stuff. Because I know plenty of guys, and then I feel like that movement, especially in my circle, is kind of evolving. Where, like you said, it used to be like kind of a pissing contest of like, well, I'm a bow hunter, well, I'm a public land bow hunter, well, I'm a trad guy, well, I wear moccasins, like, yeah,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, it's like if you're doing it for yourself and for like I don't. It gets thrown around like all the right reasons, but like as long as you're doing it like the way that you want to do it, and you're doing it, to make yourself happy and not for somebody else, like that, it doesn't matter if you need to go fill the freezer and you're having a rough season and you just need to go shoot something. Like take the rifle out and shoot something.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I think that like that's part of that evolution too. So I would back to the beginning of the question is like I would say it's like what you're seeking in the woods versus like what you I guess have to show for it.
There's probably nothing wrong with, well, like obviously there's nothing wrong with it. Your tag is your tag. Go have fun with it. But there's nothing wrong with having a double mindset either when it comes to this. Like you said, if you're a little short on meat and it's time, it's rifle season, you don't have any meat, just take the rifle. Like go get it done. Go have some fun with friends shooting ducks or whatever it happens to be. But I think you're right. It is all about the experience that you're seeking. And like you said, maybe intimacy is not the best word for it, but really the woodsmanship skills to get close enough to make that happen.
Yeah, and I think that that's I think if you were to like sum up like my podcast and like what our message is. And I hate guys that do this, be like, oh, this is what I do, blah, 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 blah,
I want to hear
blah.
it though.
Is that like for myself, like, and I don't think I said it on that podcast. I think I said it on the podcast with Matt, but like, if I kill something in Michigan here, like this year, that's big
Yeah.
on a whim, it doesn't really, it's not going to mean a whole lot to me other than I put myself in the right spot.
Yeah.
Because I didn't put in the work. Like that's what I admire about a lot of these guys is the amount of work and woodsmanship, like, even though I say like I'm the world's worst bow hunter, like for me, I know that I can go in the woods and find a deer, like a deer, looking at that. But all of the like nuances and like the little intricacies of like hunting bucks and big bucks and older age class bucks, I'm so far out of my league when it comes to that. And like, I just picked up a lease, which is really completely like out of my whole ethos or whatever.
Yeah.
But my father-in-law, he's like, I think he's going to be 73 this year.
Okay.
And last year he basically only hunted at our Patreon hunt on public land. I mean, granted, he hunted in Colorado, killed an elk in Colorado. He hunts a bunch of private ground in Ohio. Like he hunted a lot, but public land where he was like a public land warrior, like even like last year at the Patreon hunt, he hunted out of a climber at 70 years old.
No way.
And he still does. But other than that, he only hunted behind his house. And so to have something for him to go, and he really hasn't killed anything big, like as far, and even the deer that I've killed aren't big, but he hasn't killed, he kills a lot of like anything that walks by. He's a shooter. Like, I mean, it's really fun. But I'd like to have him get a chance at something like that. And then for my daughter, like she hunts up when we go to the UP. We hunted one time last year at the youth hunt, but I was trying to find something for her so we can hunt a little bit more. And this one kind of fell into our lap. But
that's awesome.
All that to say, if I go out on this lease and I shoot a big buck or whatever, like it's going to mean almost nothing to me. And like I say, I hope I get humbled and that it's not going to be this easy. But I feel like not the problem, but 99% of the challenge of killing big bucks is finding them. And so for what my standards are, like they're there. So I don't have to find them. I just have to like use those little woodsmanship things, but I lack the skills at this point to like go out and find them on my own and be able to have those encounters, if that makes sense.
It does. So there's a few things. Finding deer is different wherever you go. Like the lease thing, especially because you're doing it for a lot of good reasons. I was talking to somebody about like gateway drugs for hunting, and bluegill fishing for a kid is definitely a gateway drug because it's just the constant like exposure to I'm catching a fish, and it's not necessarily the catching. It's more, when you were 12, if you saw a deer, that encounter lasted a long time. You know what I mean? I remember the first deer I saw when I was bow hunting, it's all I could think about for like 3 weeks. And it was a doe at 150 yards away flicking. All I saw was a tail flicking, and that's important too.
Let me tell you about my first, I think it was my absolute first bow hunt. And like 12, it's nuts, but 12-year-old me, right? We have my grandpa had a cabin on the river, like kind of by where we do our Patreon hunt. And literally we walked 200 yards out the door onto public land over there. Like you can still see the mercury vapor light from the cabin, like where I was hunting. And that was when you could bait in Michigan. So we brought carrots out there and put the carrots out. My dad set a stand where he thought, funny part is he was hunting out of a climber. I was hunting out of like a $30, like full steel chain on stand.
Nice.
No sticks or steps or anything. I just climbed up this pine tree, lashed it on there, screwed in the big T-bolt, And where he set his carrots up, he couldn't get up the tree. There was no trees that were
Bean
small
poles.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all too big. So he had to go 100 yards away, and all the deer were over there eating his carrots. But so I'm up there, 12 years old, sitting there. And at this time, we were shooting fingers, pie plate accuracy, 2117s, so the cheapest broadhead, like known to man. My bait pile is like 15 yards away. This whole group of does comes in. They're eating. And I'm like, they're too far away. They're so far away. Like, there's no way. And I'm standing up. I got my bow and everything. And then I had just got a knife for my birthday that year. I bought it with some of my birthday money. And I brought some carrots up in the tree and I was shaving them off,
Yeah.
and I dropped my knife. So my knife is at the bottom of the tree. There's carrot shavings at the bottom. And one of the does is probably a button buck, is little tiny, comes over to the base of my tree. And I was like, that's close enough. So I tried taking a straight down shot, whoosh, miss. They all run off, come back, eat. And they were still too far away at the bait pile. And that was like my first bow hunt.
And I'm sure just like me seeing that one far away, it lasted you for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That little dopamine you hit, and that stuff's important, man. So that's a good reason to have a lease and to kind of learn that stuff. But that being said, if you really think you don't have the skills to look for or to find a specific big buck, that's a place you could learn a lot. Because even though it's not public land, you'll still learn a lot about the personality of deer and how they're moving and body language, how different bucks have different personalities, because it's like a dog. I have 2 dogs. They're polar opposites. One likes the couch, one won't leave the ball off your lap. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And deer the same way. But I'm doing this new short podcast, and I podcasted with 2 people today for the short episodes. And I was like, well, they're both new hunters. One is not really a new hunter. He's just kind of new to bow hunting. And the other one he's doesn't have any outdoors experience, but he started bow hunting about 4 or 5 years ago. And the one that has outdoor experience I grew up with, and the other one I work with. So he's, kind of new. And we're in kind of like a golden age of have so much content is available to learn how to do it. But I always am surprised that they're kind of on an accelerated learning course because they have all this content or people to flip this stuff off of. And I'm always surprised at how much they actually know and they think they don't. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of people, if you spend a year in the woods, you automatically learn so much just in that amount of time. But and you've been bow hunting for how long? Since you were 12, but since you've picked up the public land thing?
Well, that was on public land if you count
back
it.
there.
Yeah. But so I've been bow hunting for 32 years.
Yeah. So there's a lot you can learn in 32 years, but
you'd think I'd be better.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is I've been bow hunting for 26 or 27 years now. But I only started public land hunting about 10 years ago. And it took me, 4 years to kill a buck on public land. And that was my first buck with a bow. I was a bow hunting for 18 years at that time. So you can say there's just the part where you start to really, where the pieces start to click. Are you starting to notice that?
Kind of. And I say it all the time, and it's frustrating. Like, I know better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things with this lease is I feel like I'm 100% more confident going out of state than I am here in Michigan. And it's just because all of the stuff that you learn, all the stuff that golden age, you literally are truncated on this timetable. Yeah. And you have to do it in that timetable, but you're 100% free. So you don't have the pulls of home or like a baseball game or like anything like that's hampering you. Like you are just in the zone for X
Right.
amount of time. And so out of state, it's nothing to drive, you know, 100 miles in a day, going from property to property to property to looking for, okay, there's guys there. Oh, I'm not going to go there, to go to that spot, to go to when you find the sign, or it just gets too late in the day and you go to the best sign that you've got where you're at and you've just checked all these places off.
Yeah.
Well, at home, we nobody does that. We go to this honey hole, or there was a deer here, or I had this deer on camera. And a lot of times we're chasing old intel, or like where we think that there's going to be deer, or like in my case, I feel like a lot of the guys that I think a lot of the guys that are really successful, they hate the rut because these guys put in all the time and everything to get these deer on patterns, to track them down and kill them
Uh-huh.
here,
Uh-huh.
because they know that. For myself, is like I just go, oh, there's doe bedding here, there's going to be does, the wind's here, so if I just set up here, I'll have a good chance at a deer.
Uh-huh.
And everything leading up to the rut for me is like just hoping, like, okay, well, maybe over here or over there, but I got to be home for this, or I got to, it's so far to drive, or I'm just getting out of work, or whatever. So like putting those pieces together, like I don't doubt that I have all of that, because out of state, it is clicking. Like it's very
Yeah.
intuitive, but at home, like awful.
There's probably other things at home too. Like whenever I'm hunting at home, I'm always worried about, well, you don't want to go into that spot yet because it's, last year it was that, and you're always worried about, you don't hunt as aggressive, like you said. You're checking off all the boxes when you're out, and you are out. I mean, you're out of state to hunt. You're like, just hunt. And I mean, not that there's like not a time and place to go to the local restaurant in town or whatever, but I mean, the reason you're doing it is to you know not necessarily fill a tag. You're trying to get the experience, but you're also trying to experience the hunt.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing, is like at home, I think I want to say it may have been the same year. Like I've only killed 2 bucks in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
like so tagged out in Michigan once, and that was 2018, and that was when we came back from elk hunting the first time.
Yeah.
And all the public land, everything around me became so small because everything was so big out there. And I trusted my maps. I trusted my ability to, there's no hills, there's no nothing. So it was just really easy. But it may have been that year or the following year where I said, well, if I'm not just going to sit up somewhere just to sit, like I don't have to be sitting. I need to go find some sign. And I had a lot more encounters with deer, like bucks and whatnot, by doing that, than just going, okay, I got to be here set up before daylight and
Yeah.
just waiting on the deer. I went and like found the hot sign and set up on it, and I had a lot better experience there.
Yeah. It's definitely, that's always a hard thing too that's one thing you don't do when you're at home. Like you automatically think, I need to be in you. Whenever I go in, I automatically think I'm going to get busted if I'm climbing the tree when it gets light. And that's not usually the case. And you could be 25 yards closer to where you need to be if you just waited for gray light, or you went in a little bit later. It's an uncomfortable feeling when you're at home. When you're out of state, it's just one of the things that's in your pocket.
Well, I mean, I'll go back to like the biggest buck that I killed in Michigan was
Yeah.
in that 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and I had just come home from the UP, and I killed a buck in the UP. Came home for my wife's birthday. My wife's birthday is the worst day of the year ever. It's the best hunting day, and it's November 8th. So
Ugh.
I was home. All my stuff was still in the trailer from the UP, and she had got a babysitter for me so that I could go hunt. Well, all my stuff was packed up. We got home at like midnight. Like it wasn't like I was just going to pop up and dig all my stuff out and go.
Yeah.
But I did go like I would out of state. I went and drove around. Well, I saw a whole bunch of bucks on their feet, like good sized bucks. I mean, they were everywhere. And so we went out to dinner that night for her birthday, and with her dad, there was only one place in Michigan, like on the property that we hunt, that had like real rut activity, like chasing. I mean, it was nuts. The day that we hunted that. And I said, we got to go back there. And he's like, okay, well, we'll go in there, blah, blah, blah. Well, he's older, and I'm of the mindset where I got to be in the tree, blah, blah, blah. Man, we didn't even start walking from the truck until gray light. And it was where I killed the deer was 1.1 miles from the truck. And we got out there. He already knew where he was going. Like, he had a tree set up, and we were barely out of sight, and he had already missed a buck that morning. We got to a spot, and his hunting partner and I were like on this edge. And I'm like, do you want to go left or right? And I was like, well, he's like, well, I'm going to go down here to the right. And he's like, just go to the left and find some. And I'm sweating, I'm cursing. Like, this is so stupid. It's light, And then along this edge, I found a whole bunch of rubs. Like, I didn't get all the way over to this corner. There was tons of rubs. I was like calf deep in water. And so I couldn't set my stuff down anywhere because everything was water. So I just had to find a tree that had enough space around it where I could set my stuff down. Climb a tree, get up, turn around. There's a ladder stand like 80 yards behind me. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm looking around, and there's this tree stand there, and a tree stand there, and a tree stand there. I'm like, God, this is terrible. I'm just sitting up there. I grunted a couple times or whatever. And then I heard splashing coming through the water. There was Spike come by. I'm grunting at him and whatever. And he's looking around, and then I lost him. And then I heard splashing, and I just seen a super long body come by. And I'd put some scent out and whatnot. And this deer come right to the tree, and I shot him at 25 yards. He went 50 yards, and he just did the like going down the steps, like, and just died right there, plopped over in the water. So it went from stupidest things all the way right to like the best. I couldn't believe it happened.
That's one of the coolest feelings ever when you get to watch them tip over, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And what's funny is I did that earlier that year. so annoying. So I have two brothers, and at that point we had been hunting for 30 years together, and never, even with rifles, have all killed a deer on the same day. And my middle brother doesn't barely bow hunt at all. Like, if you want to talk about the world's worst bow hunter, like we got the genes. And we went out and hunted, and I jumped a buck. So where our property is right on the line between Eastern time and Central time. So there's this constant thing about like, whose time are we on when we set an alarm, like around this time or this time or this time.
Right.
So right in that same time frame around my wife's birthday is the time change for daylight savings.
That's the worst.
So we were in like this vortex of time. And so we set the alarm, but we got up an hour late.
Right.
So we get out there, we go. I jumped a buck on the way in, so I was pissed already. Then this would have been my biggest buck in Michigan comes in he was like 42 yards or something, single pin, put it at 42, and he just keeps coming. I took some hair right off his back. Pissed, right? Like, devastated. Get back, my middle brother shot a doe that morning, which he's only, that might have been like the second deer he's ever killed with his bow.
Nice. Get
a text from my other brother who's in South Dakota. He killed a big, like, not big, but big for our standards, like probably like 150, 160 inch mule deer out there.
Oh, wow.
On the same day. So those two killed. I would have killed one on the same day, but I missed.
Just gun it.
And so that night I went out and I shot a small buck. It's actually up over there, but I shot him, and he did the same thing. He didn't go 30 yards and tipped over. So yeah, it takes all the worry out of it,
Yeah. The anticipation of how many drops of blood can I find before I find, how many licks to the center of a Tootsie Pop, right? When you're talking about all your family and stuff, you're telling a lot of like what I would consider pretty nostalgic stories. What aspects has bow hunting brought into your life that really resonate or are important to you?
I don't know. I mean, I think when you hear me talk about this, like it's all about like the community and the experience. And
Uh-huh.
like, so for me, I talk about it all the time on our podcast just because like we've built this group of guys and this, like, it's just this deer camp feel pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
But like I grew up, if you think about, I know PA has like a really good, um, like nostalgic deer camp, deer hunters, deer season.
Yeah,
Wisconsin,
very similar to, Michigan, Wisconsin, those states.
yeah. And so that, I mean, and our property is damn near in Wisconsin. So
Uh-huh.
it is that like deer camp thing, like my middle brother, he just hunts basically to get away from work, just to like
Yeah.
disconnect, right?
Yeah.
He's not what we would say is like serious hunter. And so in that environment, like especially with rifles and being, you know, in relatively close proximity, you're sitting there and even if you don't see anything, but you heard a shot over there, you're like, oh, that was my dad, or that was my brother, or that was
Yeah.
whoever. And then when you get back to camp, it's your hunt basically is never over until the last guy comes in, because there's still a
Uh-huh.
chance that we're going to be tracking. There's still a chance that we're going to be doing this.
Yeah.
And so for me with bow hunting and like this, it's always been like, even before the podcast, even before anything, like seeing all the stuff that my father-in-law had, like we didn't need all of that stuff. There's extra bows, there's extra stands, there's extra spots, and hunting by yourself, at least for me, because I'm not chasing like a buck that I can't tell anybody about.
Yeah.
Um, it's just like, that's another opportunity for me to be successful or for us to have that experience. And so to be able to share that experience with people is like, that to me is like what it's all about. That's what it's brought to me. And, so to even take like my daughter out to track other people's deer, or, when she's shot her first deer and stuff like that, it's about that community, that feel, that, you know, that it's more than just like the animal. It's like sharing that experience together.
Absolutely. It's cool because then when you kind of branch out, I can't say that I strictly mentor people or do like, oh, I'm going to take out this brand new hunter, but I try to like, I don't do it every year, but I try to pick up somebody that's kind of fresh to the space, or they're struggling and not sure if they want to keep doing it or whatever that happens to be. And, try to help them along. When you get to the point that you're at, it's a really good opportunity to bring somebody into the space. And then when we talk about stuff like these public land issues that we just recently had, or whatever, the impact that you have on one person is going to have an impact in a long run on a lot more people than just that one person. Do you get to bring new people into the hunt?
Yeah. I mean, so for us, like our like Patreon group, like my podcast, because of, if I'm the world's worst bow hunter, like the
Uh-huh.
thing that I get the most about that when somebody is new to listening, they're like, I'm coming for you. Like you don't even know, I'm so much worse than you. And so like when we do like this group hunt, it's all skill levels, right? So
Right.
there's straight killers and there's people who don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Like they don't know what a rub is. They don't know what a scrape is. They don't know any of this stuff. And just where I thought you were going with that when you said like these people know more than they think they do, I think somewhat in this golden age, like we have the opposite where everybody knows the buzzwords. Everybody knows all the stuff. They know all about the gear. They can tell you
Yeah.
like why you shouldn't buy this or you shouldn't buy that, but they've never been in it. They haven't been out there. They haven't experienced it. And so that's what's difficult is, when where the rubber meets the road, when the guy pulls in camp, you're like, where are you going to go? And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. so you can just say, okay, well, this guy knows what he's doing. He's got room in his truck. Go with him and learn. And like the first year we did the Patreon hunt, like it was wild because I'm not a guide. We're hunting all public land. We're camping
Mm-hmm.
on, a half acre maybe
Yeah.
of private land and going out on public like free reign. There's no like this is a tried and true spot, like nothing.
Right.
Go out there, figure it out. Well, all these guys come and they came that first year. I mean, New York, Rhode Island, PA, freaking
Wow.
Texas, Iowa. Um, and so like there's a lot of pressure to be like, you know, not necessarily like for people to like kill deer, but just for the experience, right? Terrible weather, everything was bad. The last day, I think they killed 6 deer. And
Wow.
the so we had different people going in different places tracking deer. And so we went and got one deer with a couple guys, came back, saw the other truck. We went out there. There's 8 guys or 10 guys, I think, that went and recovered this deer. But those are guys that had never been on a blood trail, that have never gutted a deer, that have never seen
Yeah.
that what it's like to be following, the blood trail and like thinking about like deer circling back around or, all the things that happen that, you can read about, but until you're there doing it. And then that, like you were talking about, like that dopamine hit about like when you saw those deer, like whatever,
Yeah.
like what I was talking about camp is like all those guys were tracking that deer. So when you find it, oh my God, we found it. And then for me personally, like now to be able to share that experience with all these guys from all over the country, no matter their skill level,
Mm-hmm.
like now at least more than just reading about it, they have something to like talk about and to pull from and to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty unique and pretty special that you get to do that. I'm kind of jealous. I think more people should start things like that. But the one of the key things that you brought up there too was people really don't. They do know the buzz. You're right. They do know the buzzwords, and the gear is fancy, and they can pick a favorite brand or whatever and learn a lot about that stuff, which isn't a bad thing. But just like you said, until they get out and do it, you can read about it, you can listen to as many podcasts about it. But when if you really want to know how to, you just kind of got to figure that out. Like you got to just go out in the woods and look around. Cause you're right. People don't know the difference between one of the new guys that I started teaching, he's one of the guys that I had on today. Um, he, I took him out scouting for the first time. Like, let's go out. I'll show you trails and tracks and rub, all this stuff. And I said, well, that's a scrape right there. And he was like, oh, okay. So he come up to another one and he's like, oh, so there's a rub. And I'm like, no, that's a scrape. He's like, well, what's the one on the tree? I said, that's a rub. And he's like, oh, you know, he's like, I can't tell the difference. How do you know the difference? Like, I guess it just takes like, doing it for a long time. What kind of stories you get from these new guys that you're working with?
I mean, it's we haven't had any, like luckily we haven't had anybody get lost. Like that's the one thing that I'm most concerned about. But now with the mapping and all that stuff, that's less of a problem. But I mean, I think we had one guy last year miss 3 times. I mean, there was a night, uh, I, I think the night that they killed, I think the night that they killed those 6 deer, I think 11 arrows were loosed at 6 deer.
Oh
I
man.
mean, six hits, right? But a guy, I mean, there was a guy, I don't know what we sent him home with, some sort of trophy or something, but he missed like a lot. And then we brought him back to camp and his sight was on. He could shoot the target, but man, he couldn't shoot at all. And that's the thing. But like these guys, like we had a guy kill his first deer. Well, we had 2 guys. We had a guy kill his first deer with a vertical bow. He'd killed one with a crossbow spike, and he ended up missing it the first time or something, and then he spined it, and then he had to figure out what to do there. And then last year, I had killed a deer out of this tree, and then I sent a guy back the next day, and he had never killed a deer with a bow.
Mm-hmm.
And I killed this mom, and there was a butt buck that I didn't shoot. And I said, I guarantee that deer's going to come back out. So he shoots at that one, and he thought he missed. And then another deer comes out. He shot at that one, and I don't remember if he missed, but he ended up shooting 2 deer out of the same tree that I just killed one out of the night before. And this guy's a gigantic human, and that button buck he just held up in front of him like it was like a coyote. And but that's the thing. Well, and so that first year when we had guys that were like killers, and we were still feeling each other out, right?
Yeah.
And nobody was seeing any deer. And this one guy who shoots big bucks, and he's hunts private land, and he was trying to go for this certain class of deer, was passing. He passed a spike, and then like a couple does and something like that. And we just gave him like the business. We were like, nobody's seeing any deer. Like, you need to take somebody out with you, blah, blah, blah. That last night he killed 3. He killed a mom and 2 little ones. And he came back and like, so he killed the Doe family group. He killed like a whole bloodline.
Wiping them out.
Yeah. But it was just like a middle finger at us because we had ribbed him so much. And he was like, well, all right, I'll show you, and it's just fun stuff like that. And like people, maybe that's not the way to do it, but it is 100% like hunting, like for the fun of it, for the group, for, quote unquote, like all the right reasons, instead of like, it's not a deer camp to where it's like, you can be as serious as you want to. So some guys, hunt every day and they're very regimented. Other guys stay up all night drinking and still hunt. But there's guys that are really serious hunters that come, and this is their fun hunt where they just hunt with their buddies,
Right. And that's important too. It's one of the things that's pretty unique to, well, I mean, it's not really unique to hunting, but it's one of the things that I love the most about it is the camaraderie aspect and that camp vibe. That part is so fun because bow hunting is really a solo kind of thing. You're not really like, unless you're filming or, whatever, you're not sharing a tree with your buddy most of the time. And like when you're at home, it's kind of, it's one of those things where you might go out with somebody, you might take a truck ride in with them, but you're by yourself the entire time. So the camp vibe is something that's just, to me, is so fun. And it's part of, like you said, when that last person comes in, that's when the hunt's over. And then that's when all the stories get told and the other part of the fun starts,
Well, and like, even in that scenario, I mean, like where we had service and stuff like that, like you get a text and it's like, Tim shot one, and Josh shot one, and then Joe killed one too. And like, all this stuff just keeps coming in, and like, who was in the truck with who, and like, what's happening? Are they coming back to camp? Like, what's going on? Who's, and it, like, for morale or whatever, like, it doesn't matter that I didn't see anything that day. It's like, oh my gosh, we get to do this. And like, that's one of the things where I feel like where I grew up, like you'd go to the tavern and be like, how'd you guys do? Like, well, our camp killed 4, like, or, whatever. Like he killed a really big buck over there, like, and you take kind of like pride in like your group as a whole instead of it's like a group project. Like some people do all the heavy lifting and some people still get the grade, right?
Yeah. That's it. That's a good way of putting it. So how many out of state hunts are you generally doing a year?
So generally I just do, I guess I would say probably 2,
2 on average.
But it's hard because like doing anything like Western, like I feel like doesn't really count because it's not a whitetail hunt. So I'll do like, I'll do like a Western hunt maybe, and then an out of state whitetail hunt. And then like the other year, like we buzzed down to Indiana for a couple of days, or So it doesn't, it's not like, that wasn't like a real quote unquote, like out of state hunt where when you go like, so when we go to Ohio, it's like a week. When you go to Missouri, it was a week. We went to,
Mm-hmm.
hell, I had 11 days to hunt Kansas. Tennessee, I think we had 10 or 11 days. Um, so like I'll do like a week, plan like a week, but, and then like a Western hunt and then just like whatever pops up. Like like last year was stupid. Like last year I hunted Montana, Colorado, Tennessee, and I took 2 trips to the UP. So that
So
was a
you're,
lot.
yeah, that's a lot of vacation time. When you're planning an out of state hunt, what are the beginnings of the plan? Is it just, hey, I want to hunt this, so we're gonna go to this state, or what kind of brings that around?
It, it not Western, I guess, because that's I feel like we plan a lot more for Western hunts, but like for out of state, like around here, it's like by the seat of our pants. Like
Okay.
this year, so for example, last year, my buddy and I, we're gonna go out of state, and he's literally, he's an incredible hunter. Like he's one of these guys that listens to all this stuff, and he can automatically apply it. Like it's,
Okay.
I mean, and so he just says, wherever you want to go, I'm in. Like just tell me the dates and we'll go. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. That's the extent of the planning. So last year I was supposed to hunt Kentucky with one of my buddies from Florida. He was coming up to Kentucky. Well, he drew some like random Kentucky gun tag. So he was going a different week than we had already planned on going. So I call my buddy. I'm like, what do you want to do? He's like, I don't care. Like, we can still hunt there. Doesn't matter. Like, but I'm like, that's the only reason I was going there was to hunt with him. And like, again, zero, absolutely zero. Like, oh, there's big bucks there. Like, whatever. Like, where we were hunting, there's good bucks and
Yeah,
whatever. But there was a lot of water access, and that's what me and my buddy Eric were going to try to do.
that's cool.
So one of the Patreons like lives right by there, but in Tennessee. So
Okay.
we were like, yeah, I don't know. Like, do we want to go? Then we get like right up to it. The weather is terrible. Like it's going to rain the whole time. And then we realize that it's the opening day of muzzleloader season, like when we're going to get down there. And we're like, do we still even want to do this? And we were like, whatever, who cares? Like that's how little planning went into it. Like the dates,
Yeah.
like any of that stuff. So we go down there and we hunted and we were on deer like immediately. I killed a small buck. My buddy seen a bunch of bigger bucks. The guy that lives down there, um, never ever set foot on like basically any of the properties that we hunted, and he just followed us around basically. And it was fun for him to see because, from that, like what we talked about, like that in-state thing, like he just hunts his spots, he just
Yeah.
goes to his spots. And we were like, yeah, that doesn't look good to us. We're not going to go there. Like, we're just going to go, this is where we're hunting.
Right.
Like when I hunted Kansas the last time, cause we were hunting Kansas this year.
Mm-hmm.
I did put in a little bit of research there. I went on Kansas's website. I looked at, buck harvest statistics. I looked at out of state buck harvest statistics, and then like success rates, like across the board. And I was not smart enough to be able to figure out how to buy a point. So I just applied because I thought I just wouldn't get it. And I got it by myself. And my buddies that I'm hunting Kansas with this time
Yeah.
were smart enough to buy a point. So I drew by myself. So I had to go there by myself. Um, so like that type of planning is like here or there. Like when we started going to Ohio, like I was going with my father-in-law and his nephews and stuff. And they had heard about big bucks down in the area, and we went down there, and they went down there and scouted and
Mm-hmm.
found an area for us. Hunted there a couple times, and then where I killed my buck in Ohio with them was not like where we were focusing on or any of that. So we ended up going back down there, Eric and I, and I felt so bad because like he didn't see a deer the whole time in 2 trips to Ohio, but he just it didn't care. Like I mean, it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Um, like
I mean,
I went and hunted Wisconsin with the Latitude guys. They sent me a pin of where they were staying. I took my daughter trick or treating, put her to bed, got in the car, drove to Wisconsin. I got there when those guys were going out hunting. I
mhm.
slept on the couch. I woke up. I looked at the map and said, "There's a really big piece of public." I drove over there, and that's where I hunted.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's bucks everywhere. So if you if you have a main goal of trying to shoot a 160 on every out of state hunt, you should probably go there and scout, like and learn something about it. But I feel like you pretty much anybody who goes out of state could find something that would make them happy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And just the experience is one thing, because I've actually not been on a whole lot of out of state hunts. I'd like to do more. Um, there's a few reasons that I don't. Usually something happens where I have to cancel a trip, or I get so locked into whatever I want to do at home. Like I want to shoot this many does, and have all these bucks, and then I want to go shoot coyotes at night with my buddies, and I want to go, there's all, go pheasant hunt with my bird dog, and I don't want to miss that stuff, because hunting at home is a fun experience in and of itself. But there is something out of state that you always bring a story home. You know, I've hunted elk out of state. I hunted deer out of state twice, I think. And I killed an elk in Colorado, so that made a pretty good trip, and there were a lot of funny stories that we can kind of hindsight tell. But sometimes in the moment, the out of state hunts suck, and sometimes they're great, and you get the stories right away. But man, there's some things that happen. Like the first out of state hunt I went on, we hunted a piece, and like you said, it wasn't really seat of our pants. Like we tried to research it and do e-scouting, and when you get there, sometimes that pans out and a lot of times it doesn't. This was and like I said, this was in Ohio. We got down there and none of us saw a deer for the first 3 days. There were four of us. Yeah, four of us. None of us saw a deer. And I finally was like, I am going to see a deer tonight. So we found this spot. I'm like, this looks good. I found the first deer sign I saw all week. There was a couple rubs. I followed a rub line to where, it looked like they were rustling acorns up. And I had like a 120-inch 8-pointer come in. He was 65 yards away, so I couldn't get a shot. Like, I'm going back in there tomorrow morning. I'm going to kill that deer. And so we all kind of were like, well, this is the good area. So you go up this way and then cut in here. And we're telling each other where to go. And we had a newer guy with us. And he's like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, I'll do that. And, we'd tell him like, go here on X, whatever. And he didn't tell us that he didn't download the offline map. So I'm walking into this spot and I'm like taking my time because we got plenty of time. I'm taking my time. And I get to where I wanted to go and I see a headlamp and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. There was nobody else in the parking lot. Like all the guys. And so I just climbed the hill, like went way up above this guy. And we get to, we're all like we get back to the truck. And I'm like, you won't believe it. Some guy was in that spot this morning and he's like, what exactly spot are you talking about? I was showing him on the map and he was like, oh, well, this is where I was. And I'm like, oh, so it was you. Like, it's just, there's a lot of stuff that comes from out of state hunts, but usually you do, like you said, you have to be flexible. And if you're practicing flying by your seat of your pants, especially for whitetail hunts, it's probably the way to go.
Well, I think that's the like key that I found, because I mean, I don't know, I've probably done 10 plus now
Yeah.
for whitetail, and if you go like and that's why my buddy is the way that he is because it can look great on a map and you can put all your eggs in whatever basket.
Uh-huh.
But you can get there and there's trucks there. There's guys already there because, everybody's going at the same time. Like, we want to be there for the rut. We want to be there. Well, so, we've seen trucks from Louisiana, Alabama, frickin', lots of PA guys, like Wisconsin, everybody's doing the same thing. And everybody's looking at the same things on the map. And so
Uh-huh.
you just have to figure out like what you're comfortable doing. And so some guys are like, well, I just got to stick by ag and I got to because this is what I know. And
Uh-huh.
other guys are like, I'm going to look for these terrain features. And like, that's what helped us in Tennessee was we went by water and then we just looked for terrain. And then, we found deer pretty quickly. Like, we went in, found the sign. And if there was no sign there, then we just turned around
Yeah.
and went back, did something else. And we drove around a lot and walked in a bunch of places and classed and did whatever. But if you are pinning like, I'm going to hunt here on this day at this time with no intel, then,
Yeah.
but I killed my biggest buck in Ohio, like, somewhat by accident, but we had seen a deer in this spot the year before on the
Uh-huh.
same day. And so we had heard something that like, if that deer's still alive, he's going to be there same day. So both John and I had to work. We drove through the night after work to get down there on the exact same day, got in, and I shot this deer after being in the stand 15 minutes. And it was a debacle, like bad equipment, like found him just by sheer absolute luck and the craziest circumstances. But we went there to hunt this spot on this day because we had seen a big deer there the year before.
Yeah. When you're talking about terrain, is there something specific that you're looking for terrain, or is it just all kind of mixed, or is there something that makes you tick?
Not me specifically, but where we've been able to find stuff is like finding a little like the elevation, right? So you find like a hilly area. And then when we were explaining it to the guy in Tennessee, who's like, I would never hunt here in my life.
Perfect. That's where I want
I,
to go.
I had to show him we showed him on the map, like, if you just look and find the M's, like, that's it. That's what we said. We said, if you look and you find the M's, which is like multiple ridges coming down that look like this. And so there's
Like
an
a
inlet
turkey
here.
foot kind of
Yeah.
thing.
So there's an inlet here, inlet there. You just go to the center of that and there's going to be a scrape there.
Yeah.
And then you can see if it's active. You can see if they're using it this. And it was so funny because we walked in the one spot and we didn't even end up hunting there. We scouted around. We were going to set up and there was just nothing really great. And where my other buddy went, he saw a whole bunch of deer, and that's where I ended up killing the buck. It was over there on a different M, on like the exact spot that he had pinned like 6 months earlier. But I brought him in there and I'm like, I had already scouted around a little bit and I'm like, so see this right here, like listening to the podcast and talking to these guys that I've met. I'm like, so like this is where Parker McDonald hunts with a gun because of all these bowls. And like, you can see all this stuff and these deer should be moving like this.
Yeah.
And I said, where Andy May likes to set up would be like right here. And we just walked through it. And then there was a sign here. And then I'm like, up here, where we go up here, there's going to be this sign. And that sign was there. And then we walked all the way up into the center. And I'm like, God, there has to be a scrape here. Like, there should be a scrape here. And we walk, like, I turned around and walked 10 feet and there's a scrape right there. And I'm like, see, like, this is just what you're looking for. Like, and like, who knows, we don't have a camera on. I don't know what kind of deer is going to be in there, but I just know that I can go in there and I can see that's where it should be. And if it's not there, then it's not there.
Yeah. World's worst bow hunter, people. So are you still hunting out of tree stands a lot, or you strictly saddle now?
Basically just saddle. I couldn't tell you the last time I sat in a tree stand. I actually used my saddle to hang a tree stand for my father-in-law this year, but out of a tree stand, no. And what's funny is I think it takes you like 10 sits in a saddle to feel so vulnerable in a tree stand because you're not under tension.
Oh yeah.
And like that's what's very difficult for me now is like even setting that stand and being like, I'm like, man, this is awful. Like
Yeah.
I could fall.
I'm horrified of heights, I think, because every time I try to stand up in a tree stand, that was my whole life. I always would get like watery knees, and because you don't feel that tension on the tree harness like you do on a saddle, and that kind of fixed that for me. I used an old climbing stand that was probably a little bit better than like a hanging hunt. I felt like it was a little more sturdy. I don't know, maybe a little more locked in than a hang on, but they don't make those loggy bayous like that anymore, you know?
So, uh, so you're familiar with the Loggy Bayou.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you have one of the hug the tree kind or the 2-piece?
No, they had it. I had a 2-piece, but I didn't always like to use it. So I occasionally hugged the tree and climbed.
So when I met my father-in-law, so my dad had hunted out of Baker's. My father-in-law hunted out of Baker's and was hunting out of a Loggy Bayou. So when I went over there, he was like, well, do you have a tree stand? You know, blah, blah, blah. And I looked and I was like, well, my dad has one of those. And so I borrowed it. And like, I don't know if you're familiar with the old Loggy Bayous, but the seat folded down like this.
Yeah.
And you'd climb up and then it would open
Yeah,
back
you'd
up.
have to like put your foot over the top of it and pull it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had zero experience with this tree stand other than like in the backyard. Like this is how you do it. Like figure it out. Well, I'd use that stand probably a dozen times. I go out, I hunt by myself at this one property. I don't think I seen a deer. Maybe I seen a couple deer or whatever. That was not the memorable part. The memorable part was I had never gotten the stand to actually fully seat. And there's little pins like on crutches.
The locking pins, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know those were there. I'd never been there before. So I could not for the life, and it's dark, I'm trying to put this seat down and I can't get it down for the life of me.
Oh no.
So I ended up having to move the band down. Like I'd get up above the seat and put my legs around the tree, move the band down, sit back on it, move my safety harness down. And I did that for 20 minutes until I got like 8-10 feet off the ground. And then I just lowered myself down and then climbed back up, pull the pin, comes down. I'm like an hour and a half late coming back, go to my father-in-law's house. My face hurt so bad from being so angry. Like the muscles in my cheeks were freaking sore. And I pulled up and, obviously just that same thing, like your hunt's not done until everybody gets back. So I'm late, they're thinking, oh, he shot something and blah, 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 blah. I get out and I'm just fuming mad. And I took the tree stand out of the back of my truck and I just threw it in the yard. And I said, how do you put that seat down? And he just looked at me, big old eyes. And he said, how did you get down? Like, so.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, they're actually like pretty great stand. They're pretty comfortable for a tree stand, but they are clunky, and that metal band is so loud, and when it slides out of the locking pins and stuff. The other thing that always annoyed me when I used one was if you got the size of the tree wrong and you had to like my uncle would always make me climb back down if he could see me, but I would just reach down and unpin it and try to slide that thing out to the next one and pop it in there, which is probably not the safest thing to do, but
two times I did that and dropped the base of my stand.
Oh, no.
Twice.
That's the worst.
You want to talk about feeling vulnerable? Like, but at least I had something. So I had my other experience to, go from. So I just wrapped my legs around the tree, climb that down a little bit, go down. And I spent years and years hugging a tree and whatever, but I always got stands like secondhand or like from somebody else.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know that there was like supposed to be straps to hold those things together. Like if that was the case, it would be no big deal to reach down there and adjust it.
Yeah. Well, I got to use my dad's for a year because he had back surgery. They didn't let me use a tree stand until I was 14. And then when they did, I used his for a little while. And then I bought basically the same stand. It was just like an inch or two shorter, which was nice because it was lighter and I was kind of short. So it didn't, walking through the fields made it easier. But man, what about your 2024 season? I want to hear your favorite story from the 2024 season.
My 2024 season was pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, you went to all those places.
Well, so that, I mean, okay. So through the Patreon group, one of the guys that I'd met moved to Montana. And so for all these guys that we've met who've never went out west, we did like a training wheels Western hunt. So he opened up his house. He said, everybody can come out here. We'll come out here for spring bear. None of us had ever hunted spring bear. Don't know anything about it. It was a rifle hunt because we decided that we didn't know anything about it and we weren't going to be good enough to like locate and close with these bears like in that sort of capacity. So there was like 7 of us that went out there, and one of the guys had hunted Western before. He was from Washington, and he got on bears pretty quickly and just couldn't make it happen. But I mean, when we were talking about getting on bears, we were talking at like 300, 400, or 500 yards, just locating them and then trying to figure out like trying to move on them. So again, from what I said, like when we started this thing, like my wife was like, spring bear is like in June. So she's like, don't mess up my Memorial Day weekend. Like that's it. So everybody else drove out there like the Friday of Memorial Day weekend, and then they left like the Friday so that they could get home for the following week. Well, I left on Monday, so I came home Monday. I think I flew out Monday night or Tuesday. So I got there. These guys had already been hunting, whatever, and kind of parading around. And I told the guy that lived out there, I was like, these guys are going to leave and we're going to go kill a bear. Like, it's just what's going to happen. And I felt that way because it would be a smaller group. I've hunted in Western in the mountains before. So I knew that I could at least move through the mountains and, whatever. So that's what happened. Basically, everybody left. We saw everybody off and we made a plan. Like we had 2 days. So we were going to go camp out. We had a plan to cross this river, go up. And again, never been there before. Neither one of us really, but saw this on the map. And I think he had crossed that river before and he said it was sketchy, but doable. But that was in a different time of the year. And this thing was like rushing. It was like, there's no way. So then we're sitting on the back of the truck, like, what are we going to, and we're maybe 2 hours from his house, something like that. So like, what are we going to do? And he's like, well, I saw a guy one time and he told me he saw a bear track up there. And I was like, well, let's just do it. Like, we're not going to kill anything on the truck. So we walk up there, glass a spot, and really weren't seeing what we wanted to see. So we were just going to go around the edge of this mountain so we could glass some other stuff because there were some other things across the way. Come around the corner, and it was really funny because he's like, there's a bear. And then there was a bunch of like burnt stumps up there. And he's like, it's a herd of bears. Oh, shit. And so he had his rifle out. I had mine in my pack. And he's like, who's shooting? And I was like, I'll video, you shoot. We move in. I'm videoing him ranging. And he shot this bear like 300 yards, just folded it. And so now we're 2.5 miles from the truck up in the mountains. Neither one of us have ever killed a bear, broken down a bear, anything.
Yeah.
We go up there, we're figuring it out. And then we realize that we're like kind of in grizzly country, like right on the edge. And so we're like, somebody should probably like be watching out, And so we did that. And then we were walking back and I had flown out there. So I was just using his rifle, and it was a Winchester Model 70. And he's like, and he had, most of the bear in his pack. I had some in mine. And his gun was like, I think on his pack or whatever. And he's like, are you comfortable with that Model 70? Like, you know how to work it and everything? I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine. But It was awesome. I mean, super cool. So
Yeah, that's a great hunt.
that was June. Come back, and I wasn't going to go to Colorado because I'm supposed to go to Colorado next year, and I don't know if my spot's still open or whatever. But we had done a spike camp in like 2021.
Uh-huh.
My dad and his buddy's dad had used the same outfitter for like 20 years or something, gone every year.
Yeah.
And they stayed at the lodge and drove out to their stands. Well, the kids wanted to go and do like a spike camp, the one guy's kid, and they needed an extra guy. So they took me out there and went out there, whatever. So I was supposed to do that. Well, last year, my father-in-law was like, hey, they've been going for a couple of years and they never had a spot for me. Like he was like, oh yeah, we got this great elk hunt, da 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 da. And so I'm planning for it. And he's like, we don't have enough room for you. You can't go. And so that it's been like that for like the past like 4 years. And then last
Yeah.
year he's like, you can go. And I was like, and my wife was like, well, you're going with my dad, and how many more times you're going to get to do that? So I got to go out there. My father-in-law ended up killing a bull. One of the other guys that we went with killed a cow. And I called in my first bull. Called in like a raghorn. He came into like 90, and I wasn't set up quite right, and he couldn't see. I didn't have the decoy set up or anything. So he just took off, and then we could have killed him on the walk back in the dark. He was like 40, 50 yards away. When we come around the corner, he's just standing there, but that
Just
wouldn't,
hanging out.
yeah. And he didn't know what we were, and he couldn't fathom like that we were dangerous. So that was that. And we had called in a couple other, a bunch of cows and a couple bulls to like 80. And then I went out and I had a cow at like, probably like at 60, but we saw each other at the same time. Like I was not expecting her to be coming around behind me. I was expecting where we'd seen the elk the day before.
Yeah.
So that was super cool. Get back from there. And then all of a sudden, like it's bow season, and I didn't even have a license or anything. And my daughter was like going to go stay at her friend's house. And so I was like, oh, shoot. Then I'll just go slip out behind my father-in-law's and set up and get in a tree. So I dropped her off, and then I realized I didn't even have a license. So I had to go buy a license, come back. And last year, so like for the past 3 years prior to this, during gun season, I just hunted with a stick bow because I'd been trying to kill something. I've been like dabbling. Like a few years ago, like I missed a turkey with the stick bow. Like at like 7 yards, I missed by like a mile. Just terrible form. Just, it was awful. Fun, but awful. And so what I would do is I would hunt regular season, and then during gun season, I would just go out with the stick bow. And I did that for 2 or 3 years. And one of my buddies told me, he's like, you just need to go and like try it in the early season because you're getting close to deer. I just couldn't get drawn on deer.
Yeah.
I had them in range and stuff, but I was always picked off, like moving. And there's no leaf cover or anything like that. So I go get up a tree behind my father-in-law's, and these 2 bucks come in, and like with a compound, like they were dead, like dead.
Yeah.
And the one went, he was like 45 yards away, and the other one turned and came right exactly to the scrape, like just like he was supposed to. And I shot right over his back at 12 yards. I was like, I just laughed. Like if that was with a compound, like you'd be like devastated. And this was like a 3-point or something. Like anything that walked in front of me with this stick bow was going to die, or I was going to get an arrow flung at it, I guess was a better. But so he peels off this way and starts walking around. Well, then that other buck came to like investigate, because the traditional bows are very quiet, like compared to like a compound, like it's not nearly as violent.
Yeah.
So that deer comes up, and he's like just on the other side of the scrape, and he's feeding on acorns. And I knock another arrow, and I shoot, hit a branch, lands like right 10 yards away or whatever. That deer just looks up, looks around, and he doesn't even move or anything. He goes back to feeding. So I knock another arrow, and I shoot, and I didn't have lighted nocks or anything. I didn't know where my arrow went or anything.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear it hit anything like solid. Like it just disappeared.
Huh.
And the deer ran off kind of funny. Like the other one like looked around, like whatever. And I swear, like I pulled up the binoculars, and at this point, granted, I'm out of broadheads. So I'm empty quiver. Like I got
No more
nothing.
shots.
Yeah. So the end of the thing, but I like pull up my binos, and I swear I saw the deer tip over, but I was like, there's no way that just happened. This, and then the other deer's running around, blowing and, doing all this stuff,
Yeah.
causing a commotion. So I text my father-in-law, and I'm like, I'm out of arrows. And he's like, did you get some? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't. So, I waited until it got dark. I climbed down, I went over, and I picked up all my other arrows. And, then I went, and right where that deer was standing, there was like a spot of blood, like 2 foot around. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, no way. So I found my arrow, and it's just coated in blood, and I stuck it in the ground. And I went up there, and I'm like, well, so we went out there. That deer went 80 yards and piled up.
That's awesome.
So that was cool. So then the next hunt that we go is the Patreon hunt. We go up there. I went up there Thursday night or Wednesday night maybe.
Yeah.
Because a couple of guys had came into camp, and the one guy from Rhode Island was up there, and he was cooking dinner. So I went up there, but we drove around and we scouted, and we'd seen some deer on the side of the road. We figured out like he was hunting with the guy that killed the spike the year before that he spined and all that. And so it's like this public land, like old apple orchard, like just tucked back in this place. So like built-in bait pile, like there's apples, like there's acorns all around, like great spot. So he goes and hunts there, and this is the next day. So the next day we all go out and hunt, and everybody's figuring out, everybody's in camp. They're like, oh, I'm gonna hunt here, hunt here, hunt here. Everybody goes. So I went and sat at one of the places that we had scouted, just right off the road. These does, that button buck and that doe come in, and they're close. I mean, like the button buck comes by at like 12 yards, and then that doe feeds in, and she's at like 16. And I go to draw. I tried to draw on her like 3 times. She kept like kind of picking me off, and I drew back, and something made a lot of noise, and she looked up, and I just kind of like half let it go, and just went right over her back. So I was like, God dang it. So I was looking to see what happened when my tether was super high, and when I was swinging around, it was scraping on the back or the bark of the tree. So I pulled that down, I tightened it up, and 45 minutes later they come back, and then I ended up killing that doe at 21 yards. And so that was cool. So everybody got to come track and all that stuff. Then the 2 days later, I missed a buck. He comes into this scrape, and it's funny. My dad, he always told me, if you're going to shoot a buck, like don't look at his antlers, because that's where the arrow's going to go.
Yeah.
Well, for whatever reason, I got it on video. This buck comes in, and he's like right there, 12 yards, right on the scrape. I draw back, and this is not a big buck. It's this big, like 2-year-old 4-point. But with the stick bow, I would have been tagged out like in 10 days, which I've never done. Killed 2 bucks in Michigan.
Yeah.
Done it one time. I would have done it with traditional equipment in 10 days. And I draw back, and for whatever reason, I just gave it a little extra, and I shot, and that torqued everything, and I shot right through his antlers.
Oh no.
And he runs off, and he's over there. So I shoot at him again at 30, and I hit a branch, and arrow goes flying. What was funny about that? It's not funny. I mean, it's, unfortunate, but it's just, back to the world's worst bow hunter thing.
Yeah.
I pick up my arrow that I shot through his antlers, and it's clean, it's clean. I'm over, and after that, I had seen a buck like up on this ridge, like he was scratching at his head, and it looked like he had just come out of velvet, like his antlers were bloody and whatnot. And I was like, that's weird, I'm looking at him through binos. Well, I go over there, I'm looking for my other arrow, and there's blood, like patches of blood everywhere. And so I call my buddy who had missed a deer that morning. We went in together. He missed Spike or whatever. He comes over and I'm like, dude, I'm just standing here waiting. I'm like, you can't believe this. Like, I think somebody else shot a deer and it came down the ridge and I'm just waiting for somebody else to come track it. So he comes
Yeah.
over there and we're like, he's like, where were you? What was going on? And so what we think happened is that when I shot, it actually, the blade of the broadhead like clipped his nose
Okay.
like this, because all the blood was like sprayed, like it was like just sprayed, like, and it was like snotty kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I shot that deer like in the nose or like one blade, but then when the arrow went into the dirt, it just
Cleaned it
cleaned off.
Yeah.
So that was pretty wild. And then later on that season, I missed a doe again at like 15 yards with a stick bow. And I'm glad I did because that arrow went like right over her guts. So that would have been
A
not
mess.
awesome. But I think I shot 9 times with the stick bow at deer.
That's like dove hunting.
So then I went to the UP, had a really nice encounter with a big buck, and he ended up winding me. I sat like where I didn't want to sit. And if I would have done a lot more scouting, that would have been better. But I ended up going down, shot a doe with the compound. And then the next day I was going to video my father-in-law and he didn't want to get up. So I went down in there. It was all messed up. I was going to sit in my dad's stand. That was way too completely dangerous. I was like, I'm not sitting in there. So I ended up sitting in this ladder stand that he uses to get into his stand.
Yeah.
And I missed a doe, but I didn't realize that I thought I hit the doe because just the way that she reacted, it looked like she was hit. I couldn't find my arrow for the longest time, but I had killed a deer right there the night before. So it was like a bloodbath. And I was trying to figure out if it was new blood or old blood or like what was going on. And turns out I just missed. I ended up finding my arrow and I just missed. But I would have bet money that I pinwheeled that deer and I was done in Michigan. So that was Michigan. Then we went to Tennessee, and the first day we went into Tennessee, it was raining. We went down on this like little peninsula, and we weren't even. I had my bow, but I didn't have anything else. I didn't have a rangefinder. I didn't have a grunt call. I didn't have anything. And with my buddy, he's like, "I want to look at this spot." We glassed up a whole bunch of bucks. They were chasing everywhere. We were like, "Oh my god, this is like the Mecca." We get to this one spot, and we thought that it was like a land bridge. So we were gonna like work our way out this land bridge, and we're just creeping, going slow, and we stopped, and we're like, if there was gonna be a deer here, like this is where they'd be bedded, and boom, it just exploded, and like this 130 jumps up, and this doe, and they're running around. And we're like, holy shit! So I knock an arrow, and we don't have anything like rangefinder or nothing.
Yeah.
And we're like, what is going on? So we're trying to figure it out, and the doe kind of goes around the thing. We look up, and that was a peninsula. And so this deer, we just see this rack like swimming across the thing, and he stands up like 40 yards on the other side of the
Creek
he
or
gets
whatever.
up, yeah, and he's just looking back, trying to figure out where the doe went. And we're like, what the hell? And no rangefinder. I mean, it was 40 yards, like 100% could have made that shot if I would have known but we didn't know what was going on. And that was an hour and a half into Tennessee.
That's wild.
Then we went up and
That's one of those when you're like, oh, it's gonna be a good week.
yeah. So then we went up, and where we were planning on hunting, some guys had been up in there the day before and killed. There was a lot of shooting with muzzleloaders up there. And so we're like, we don't know how this is going to go. Talked to them. They said they were done. They were just hunting for that day. Went in the next day. My buddy seen a couple bucks. I seen a few does and fawns and whatnot. Our other buddy killed 2 does and seen a spike or something. So we ended up kayaking 2 doe out that day.
Oh, cool.
Went and hunted a couple different spots. That's when I got in. We were looking around. The last day that we could hunt that place, went in on like kind of like a bad off wind, and I had the buck that I killed come in, and it was just like a 80-inch 8 point. But my buddy and I, Eric, he shot at a lot of deer when we were hunting, but he's never killed one out of state. And I'd never even loosed an arrow out of state with him. And we're like, we're going to kill something this time. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's going to die. And I said, I just want to kill like a clean 8-point because I haven't killed like a clean 8-point. And this deer just came in and right on like bad wind, just off wind. And I shot him. And, you know, we were talking earlier about like when you see him tip over.
Yeah.
Like this deer I shot at, I think like 11 yards or something. And the arrow, like I could just see my white fletchings and they were green. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh, no.
Like, this deer is quartered to me. I didn't hear him tip over or anything like that. So we just sat there. And in this instance, like the other buddy, he was hunting really close to me. And he like heard the whole thing and he's like, oh, that sounded good, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. So we waited an hour plus. They came over and that deer basically, he only went like 90 yards, but he went up and he did like a J hook into a bed right on the end of the point on the next like turkey foot over. And it was kind of cool. I mean, to see, because the deer died like bedded down. So like his legs were curled under him and just like tipped back over. So he literally ran up that ridge, J hooked into the wind and bedded on that point and just looked back at like whatever bit him.
Right.
So if we would have got down any sooner or whatever, we would have bumped him or
he would have gotten up. Yeah.
Yep. And literally it was a great shot. Like I shot him right behind the shoulder, but it just came out because he was quartered to so much that it just came out like by his back leg and just went through everything.
Yeah.
And then we kayaked like across this big thing. We seen a bunch of bucks over there. We rattled and called in a little buck and my buddy missed it. Just bad range, totally my fault. But we were laughing and hooting and hollering, cutting up. It was like so fun. Then he ended up missing another buck like the next day, like the last day that we were there.
Yeah.
And then we go up to our property with the kids, like all the like nieces and nephews and everybody go up to our hunting camp. And my daughter ended up shooting a doe the first morning that we were out on Thanksgiving morning. And then my niece shot one that night or maybe the next night. But yeah, so it was a good season.
Awesome
I mean, there was
season,
a lot
man.
of stuff.
Yeah, you've got a lot of stories out of that one. I mean, that's why we do it. It's one of the best parts of, I mean, the field tag's nice, but the story that comes with it's the most important part. And that's definitely what it's for. It's definitely what it's about.
Yeah. So when people like ask me like, how was hunting with a stick bow? I'm like, I shot 9 times at animals. Like
pretty good.
I don't know.
Pretty good. Dude, thanks for coming on. We're going to have to do this again, but can you tell people where they can find you at?
Yeah. So I do the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. I was doing it with my wife's cousin, John. He's like a bow wizard. So on some of the older episodes, he's on all the time, but, you know, the podcast has been around for like, I think this is like the 8th year that we've been doing it.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So it's, you know, has its like ebbs and flows. But basically we do like a weekly podcast. And then I've got some other guys that are coming on and we're doing some filming and stuff with, the channel on YouTube is called Rome. And we're really kind of ramping that up, putting it together with a bunch of guys that do other podcasts and stuff like that, just
Very
collaborating. Cool. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, Bowhunter Chronicles basically everywhere.
Cool. Dude, thanks again. We're going to have you on for one of the whitetail brief episodes to tell your story about your first tag buck this year.
Okay. Yeah.
Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. Well, that's a wrap, InCamp. Thanks for listening. Go ahead and check Adam out at Bowhunter Chronicles on his Instagram page and his podcast. You'll really love the content that he puts out. If you could, leave me a 5-star review and a rating. It helps get this show around. Shoot me some DMs if you want to hear something or a guest. Shoot me an email at incamppodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the show at incamp_podcast on Instagram. It's great great to hear from you guys. Thanks for listening every week. This is InCamp Podcast.